welcome back. So last week we talked about my testimony, or in other words, my story. And so this week we're going to be talking here about Curtis's testimony. And if you guys haven't watched my testimony last week, then if leaders, you can pause this and kind of give them a synopsis of what I went through. That would be great so that we can all be on the same page here. So I have the pleasure here of being with Curtis. I've gotten to know Curtis through The Journey, and that's a church here in St. Louis, and Curtis is a pastor here, and I have been extremely blessed by his sermons, and I don't want to steal him or keep him just to me. I feel like you guys would be extremely blessed by him as well. So we are going to talk today about Curtis's testimony, or in other words, his story about growing up, kind of a few challenges he had. We're going to focus a little bit on his childhood, but then we're really going to dig into his high school, what he went through in high school, because that's where a lot of you guys are right now. And I feel like there'll be a lot of different tribulations that you went through, and so we have the tea here. And Curtis is going to spill the tea on how Jesus is working through his life right now, and also how he worked through his life while he was in high school and just growing up. So Curtis, let's start off, and thank you again for doing this.
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Let's talk about a little bit of you growing up. What did that look like? What did your family look like?
Yeah. So I grew up on the Illinois side, and both my parents were in the military, so we're originally from the South, but we only got up here because of the Air Force. Okay. And I have one sister. She's 2 years older than me, and my mom still lives in O'Fallon, at the house I grew up in. And I grew up in a smaller town called O'Fallon, Illinois, and it was diverse really because of the military base, and growing up there, then going to church in a city called East St. Louis. So because of church, that's where I spent most of my time, and those are the years I grew up.
Awesome. And so growing up, you were a part of the church regularly. Did you have a faith growing up?
Man, I did not. And so I often say that I grew up in the church, but nothing about that was really inside of me. So I did not know really Jesus or Christianity genuinely until I was 23 years old. Growing up was just a lot of time spent in church, going through the motions, seeing a lot of tradition, seeing a lot of inconsistencies. And when I was younger, I had a desire to be somewhat of a good kid, but as I got older, I threw that out the window and was doing me.
So, in your eyes, what was a good kid?
Man, in my eyes, back then, and really I was really young, so this is like junior high or right before that, I thought a good kid was, good grades, sports, no sex, no drugs, obey the law, and all that stuff. Okay. And I did none of that, except grades in sports.
Oh, okay. So that was where you focused in a lot on. Yeah. So when did that start changing in your life?
Man, it really was going from junior high to high school. And again, I saw a lot of inconsistencies with people who say they were Christians, including my own family. So my dad was active in the church, an active leader, but I had seen him do some things, and really I did not have a good relationship with him at all. So I had a lot of anger and bitterness. Like, he was physically around, but no other way. Like, emotionally and mentally, he was just out of the picture. And so there was a lot of bitterness in that disconnect. And so when I felt, I didn't feel loved by him or seen by him. And I wasn't really getting down with Christianity. So I was like, well, my world is sports and grades. So look, if this is how I'm going to get out of this house, that's what I focus on. Okay. So in freshman year, that's what I really started focusing on and doing that. And that became my identity.
So what sports? So were you in multiple sports, or were you just in one sport?
Multiple sports: football, basketball, and I ran a little bit of track. But that was only to stay in shape for football and basketball.
Okay, gotcha. So talk a little bit more about how that kind of became your God, your idol.
Man, there's something. Honestly, it was overwhelming in the sense of how good it felt when you could be the best, and when people celebrate you for being really good. And so when I would make a good grade, and that would be affirmed in many different ways, or someone would say, "Good job, Curtis," I was like, "Oh man, that feels real good." Or I performed well in football, basketball. And so when that kept growing, I was like, okay, well, this is where I'm gonna feel like I'm somebody special, then I'm give myself fully to that. Now, as I did, and that became my identity, that means I really only existed for that. I only existed, I woke up, wanted to be that, and that was my way out of the house. So I was like, when I get out of this house, I'm out from St. Louis, Midwest, I'm gone forever. And then, but obviously I came back eventually. But it became my identity, as in my joys, my fears, everything was wrapped up in that. So if I performed well in basketball, man, I was on top of the world. When I didn't, in my senior year, it did not go the way I thought it should have went at all. And man, I was pretty much depressed and yeah, threw myself into everything unhealthy, from sex to alcohol to drugs, drug dealing. Those are things I gave myself over to when those idols didn't really help me.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that. That's not the way it went. But can you dig a little bit more into what happened whenever you had sex and drugs and all of that as your idol? So I know you said you went into depression a little bit.
Yeah.
So whenever you really focused in on that, how did your parents, respond to that? How did your friends respond to that? Did you have anybody, encouraging you, or, how did that as a whole take over?
Man, so it took over a lot of things. One, I mean, all my friends encouraged those idols, encouraged those things being my identity, and encouraged all the other behavior from the sex and alcohol. And if during that time when I was doing it, I would have said, man, I enjoyed doing it because it filled a void, right? So I felt like, man, I wasn't somebody special unless I'm doing these things. So it felt good from that end. But beyond those things, like when it came to my parents, man, it was crushing my parents. I mean, I remember getting arrested my junior year for selling drugs, and man, it crushed my mom. And that was the first time I really saw an impact that my lifestyle had on other people. And that even though I might be satisfied, if for some reason they're not feeling loved by it, and that broke my heart. Like, I really, honestly, I didn't know what to do with that, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't stop doing those things, but it really rocked me when I saw my mom's heart broken. And really the only one, I won't say my sister, she wasn't encouraged, but she was like, fool, you crazy, you just need to stop. Well, we won't call that encouragement, but that's my sister. She was like, you crazy, you gonna be dead, you need to stop. And that's what I heard. And I would say I heard some encouragement at church, but I won't say a whole lot.
So Curtis and I have a very similar story in that sense. So in high school, I also got into that party scene, and I was smoking a lot of weed and drinking a lot of alcohol, and that's what I live for as well. And so, and my sister also, she was, the straight A student, did everything right. And so then here I am, the youngest child, little rebel child. And so she was also she was kind of encouraging, but also I can't believe you would do this. And her and I did not get along in high school. And neither did my mom or I, because she saw this path I was going down, and I didn't care that, I was doing that. And my friends encouraged it. And so that's whenever, my junior year of high school is when I changed my life and went to a church camp, because one of my friends saw where I was going and was just like, Steph, you have got to get your life figured out. So him and his family paid my way through a camp. And it was a Chris Tomlin camp. I had no idea who Chris Tomlin was.
That's crazy.
And so that's when I gave my life to God, and I just continually since then went to church, because I didn't grow up a Christian. So we're a little different in that sense, but I can relate to that, and how your friends really just encourage that bad behavior. So whenever you did change your ways, did you talk to your friends about that, or did you kind of how did you navigate that friendship? All those friendships that you had.
It was a mix. I did some things good and something not good. So my lifestyle just kept getting worse and worse. So when I would get more depressed or feel like I was failing in life or failing someone I really loved, I would just get more active in the alcohol or the drugs, and it got worse, and worse. And so to the point where I got a DUI, got arrested. That's when I started changing my life around, and it was like so immediate and radical. I honestly didn't know what to do with it. If I'm honest, I'm like, even growing up in church, I just didn't have a category for it. Like, so I don't know what to do. So on one end, like one of my friends, like the friend that picked me up from jail after getting arrested, I unintentionally rejected her. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't try to, but I was so overwhelmed by this Jesus who died on the cross for me, and I didn't want anything I used to be. So I was like, well, listen, I got to do this for a while, and I'll come check you out later. And that wasn't really the most loving thing for me to do, because she felt rejected in the name of Jesus, and I really screwed that up. But I didn't just apologize. Other friends, I was able to just share, hey man, here's what happened. In fact, even though that happened in 2001, 23, to this day, I'm still having conversations, with people who just cannot believe I'm a pastor, can't believe I'm a Christian, and I still just bring them along, like, man, here's who I was, here's what he did for me, and as I patiently walk through friends, some come to know him, many of them don't, but I just become their friend that prays for them. So if something goes down in their house, I'm getting that call, and I feel honored that I can be that friend for them.
Definitely, yeah. So I'm doing the same thing, walking down that path with a lot of those friends, and it's a lot of them don't believe in God, but we're not called to be their God or their Jesus in our life. We are called to plant those seeds, and
Absolutely.
and just kind of see how Jesus works from those seeds that we planted. So what is your family, because of that disconnect that you had with your family, and did you desire to have a family whenever you were in high school, because you were just like, I don't care about my family, so I can't even think about that, or were you thinking about having a family at that time?
I was. In fact, I would often say my biggest dream in life is to be a dad, and I think it's because I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. So I was like, I'm gonna prove I'm gonna be a better man than you would be. So I'm gonna have. Now I didn't want to get married, so I did not think have family as in a wife.
Yeah.
I just want kids.
Right.
And so I was like, if I get kids without a wife, I'm good. Right. And that's honestly my aspiration all my life is I want to be able to raise kids and them experience something I didn't experience. So love and acceptance, and that was my hope.
All right. And your parents were married.
They were.
But you didn't find any value in that. You just didn't,
No, I did not. I mean, I didn't. They weren't a picture of marriage I wanted. It wasn't the healthiest marriage many of the times, and so sometimes we'll think being married is good, but man, if they're married and unhappy and it ain't healthy, it ain't a picture you want. So I was like, I would rather be single and have kids than have that,
Okay, I understand. Well, thank you so much, Curtis.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for having me.
We are extremely blessed by your story, and we cannot wait to hear more from you maybe one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Well, thank you, and we'll see you guys next week. That is some good tea.
Yes.